Hello and welcome once again to Woke Watch, the series where we look at woke ideas which are often peddled by the hard of thinking, the folks who are determined to be offended by everything, and pick their ideas apart to reveal the utter horseshit that they are. A few weeks ago, I read an article in the New York Post, which adds something else to the ever-growing list of ists and isms, which are meant to be offensive, but for anyone who wasn't hit in the head with a shovel as a child can see that they aren't. So if you've ever used a keyboard and pushed the shift key, you're a racist, because apparently capital letters are a form of white supremacy. A Canadian academic. Whenever someone's described as an academic, generally it means they're intelligent but ultimately useless. So Dr. Linda Manyguns, that's the name that could only have come from North America, says that she refuses to use capital letters unless she's highlighting the struggle of Indigenous peoples. What the actual fuck? So the reason that Dr. Linda Lots of Firearms has joined, and I swear I'm not making this up, the lowercase movement. And let's be clear, not using capital letters doesn't mark one out as a bastion of social justice. It just makes you look a bit thick. Anyway, the reason she's joined the movement is because of the discovery of hundreds of unmarked children's graves. It transpires that Canada has some very unpleasant chapters in its past, just like every other fucking country on Earth. But the early settlers, or colonisers if you want to be woke, developed a practice of taking Indigenous children away from their families and putting them into special schools where essentially they were westernised. But disease was rife and they died in their droves, and that's a real fucking tragedy. But what's it got to do with using the caps lock? The answer, of course, is nothing. The lowercase movement is just another collection of woke, attention-seeking narcissists, including Dr. Linda Multiple Howitzers. But let's acknowledge that bad things happened in Canada's past. What the fuck does that change? Dr. Various Pump Actions went on to say the movement rejects any symbols of colonisation or hierarchy. So a doctor, someone with a PhD who works for a university, is rejecting hierarchy. In the social structure, she's pretty much at the top. She also said that Indigenous peoples have been involved in a multi-dimensional struggle. Multi-dimensional, what are they in Star Wars or the fucking Matrix? Since time immemorial. And that's true. It's also the history of the entire world. The history of humanity is a never-ending catalogue of horror stories. Our story is a history of genocide, of slavery, of wars. But at what point are we going to move on? Say, yes, bad things happened, but we need to keep moving forward. It's not like I'd meet a 20-year-old German guy and blame him for the Holocaust. But woke people can't get their head around that. They want everyone to either be a victim or an aggressor. If we take something like the British Empire, I think we can all agree there were mistakes made. The history of the empire is a history of invasion, westernisation and enslavement. But where do we draw the line? Because Britain used to be part of the Roman Empire. Rome's forces invaded and conquered Britain and assimilated it into their empire. Actually, not all of Britain. Rome had conquered the known world, got to Scotland and thought, fuck it, we'll just build a wall across that. But there's still evidence of the Roman colonisation of Britain here right now, from the numerals we use on our clocks through to the various ruins and bathhouses. But to date, I've yet to fall sobbing to my knees and demand compensation from the Itiddly-Itis. And as far as I'm aware, no one has telephoned the Egyptians, and in their past they were very famous for how they mistreated people, and said, we're sick of your symbols of oppression, get those fucking pyramids down. Of course the past is important. We need to know our history in order to stop it repeating. But the woke brigade's obsession with what one person's ancestors may or may not have done to another person's ancestors isn't helping anyone. Surely, if my great-great-great-grandfather did something terrible, I shouldn't be fucking blamed for it. And here's an example. I live in Staffordshire, the next county over is Cheshire. And a man who lives there is Osama bin Laden's nephew. But that's fine, because most people aren't woke and don't make others guilty by association. I've just thought of an incredibly loose way to link racism and empire building with using capital letters, and you're going to have to squint a bit to see it. When a country invades another and sets up its colonies, it needs to move people and supplies to established bases. And another word for move is shift. And just to top the wokeness off, the journalist who wrote the article, David Arrow, decided to appease Dr. Lots of Bazookas by constantly writing her name using only lowercase letters. David, that does not make you progressive, brave or woke. It means you're shit at your job. Once more, we've seen that the woke brigade can use convoluted logic, and I use that word extremely loosely, to bring two things together in order to be offended where there is nothing to be offended by. As you can probably see, here in England we had heavy rain last night. I expect the screamy people will be saying the weather is racist because it didn't give half of it to Africa. As ever, thanks for watching.